Now, before we go ahead and go over the overview of the Excel 2013 program, well, first we need to open it up. And you can either do it by clicking on the Start button, which, by the way, what you're looking at here is the Windows 7 operating system. You may have Windows 8 or an earlier version of Windows, but the concept is the same. If you want to go ahead and open up the Excel 2013 program, at least for me on the operating system, you click on the Start button, go to All Programs, scroll to and find Microsoft Office 2013, the folder, expand it with a single click, and then go ahead and find your program. And then when you find it, click on it, it opens it up. Now once you close out of it, then you have to repeat the process, but if you don't want to go back to the Start menu, then go ahead and give it a right click on the program and either pin it to the taskbar. As you can see, it says unpin because right now I currently have it pinned, so the only other option is to unpin it. Or you can pin it to the Start menu, or you can send it to, come over here and up to the desktop as a shortcut, which is what you see on the desktop there, the shortcut that will require a double click to open it up. So I didn't pin it to the Start menu, but I can do that and then go ahead and click back, and you can see it's in the Start menu, but that defeats the purpose for me because I don't want to go to the Start menu. So I can right click on it and unpin it from the Start menu, click off, and I can either use a shortcut down below on the taskbar, which just requires a single click, or the one right here which requires a double click on the desktop, that is. Go ahead and double click on it, and there we go, it opens up the Excel program. Now in 2013 it doesn't open up and start you off with a blank worksheet. It takes you to the backstage view where you get a bunch of templates you can choose from. Like, let's see, I don't want the blank workbook, maybe there's something else I want to start off with. Which for me, I'm a bit more traditional, and plus I usually start off with the blank workbook, so I can go ahead and change the options here, and I'll show you later on how you can have it always start up with the blank workbook every time you open up the Excel program. In any case, let's just go ahead and click on the blank workbook to open it up, and there you go. There's Excel 2013. Now for the overview. And to go ahead and do that, so every time you open up Excel, you know what you're looking at here. We'll start in the upper left-hand corner, work our way from left to right, then top to bottom. So on the upper left, you can see the Programs icon to let you know what program you're working in. That's Excel with the X there. Then to the right of that, you have what's known as the Quick Access Toolbar. It's called that because you can quickly access any command on it in a single click, like Save. And I'll show you how you can customize that and add more commands to it later on. And then over in the middle here, you have what's known as the title bar. It's got the title of the workbook. It's a generic title. That is, until you save it and rename it and call it something like My Spiffy Workbook. And then over to the right of the dash here, you have again the name of the program to let you know that you're working in Excel here. Then over to the far right, you have the Help feature. And then new to Excel 2013, the ribbon display options, which we'll go over later when we learn how to customize the ribbon. And that's it down below, this ribbon right here. Then you have the three options when it comes to working in a Windows environment like Windows Vista, XP, 7, or 8. You can go ahead and minimize the window, restore it down, or even close out of it. And then also new to Excel 2013, you have the Sign In option. And you can see in the pop-up, this allows you to get your documents from anywhere by signing into Office. Below that, you have what's called the ribbon. It's got all the commands here. And Microsoft categorized them by the more popular commands or the basic commands on the Home tab. And then those commands you want to insert, like inserting a table, charts, spark lines, regarding the page layout, adding formulas, data review, and so on. Let's go back to the Home tab, and the commands within the tabs are grouped. So you can see over here you got the clipboard group, Align, then you've got the font group, meaning that all the commands that are dealing with fonts, like how to go ahead and choose the type of font, the font size, make the font bold, italics, underline, change the color, is within the font group. Now some of these groups have a little arrow in the lower right hand corner. It's the expandable dialog box button, meaning that there's more to the group than meets the eye. In other words, these are the more popular commands, but if you want a little bit more that aren't as common, go ahead and click on that expandable dialog box button, and it expands, opens up another window. And in that window, it basically contains the same commands that you see here within the group, but additional commands as well. So you see bold, italics. Well, there's bold and italics. And then you can see down here you got additional commands. You can go ahead and do a strike through. And when you check the box, you can see over here in the preview window what it's going to do to the data in the cell. It's going to put a line through it. So if you got a discount, you want to slash the price for one cell that has like 50 bucks in it. And then in the cell down below, the new price, maybe 40 bucks. Well, the strike through, you can use that to go ahead and cross out the higher price. In any case, there's extra commands there. Let's go ahead and click cancel. Aside from the basic tabs here on the ribbon, you may also get additional contextual tabs or tabs that relate to what you're working on down below. So for example, if you're working on a picture, objects, or charts, when you select that picture or object, you'll have some additional tabs like designing the picture or formatting it. And you can click on that tab, and then when you click off the picture, the tabs will disappear. So those tabs come and go depending upon what you're working on down below in the Excel workbook. But these other tabs here are going to remain. And then over to the far left, you have the File tab. When you click on it, the entire worksheet disappears. It takes you to what is known as the backstage. In other words, when it comes to customizing the Excel environment, you can come down here and click on Options and choose a bunch of options here from General Options, Formulas, Proofing, Saving, where you want the Excel workbook to be saved every time you click Save. You want it into a folder on your desktop or maybe actually on your desktop. Let me go ahead and click Cancel. The other options you get when you click on the File tab to go backstage is that you get information about the workbook you're working on. You can create a new workbook, open up other workbooks, save it, print it, and so on. So we can go ahead and click back to go to the front stage when we want to work on our data here within the Excel spreadsheet. So that's the ribbon. Then down below that, you've got what's called the name box. It contains the name of the cell that you currently have selected. You can see down below in the spreadsheet, you got all these columns here, and you have all these rows. So when you go ahead and click inside a column, you select the column here, but also you chose a row, so the name of that cell, if you look up in the name box, is column E, row 4, so the cell is E4. And then over to the right of that, you have what's called the formula bar, and it performs a lot of options here, the least of which is that if you look at a cell and you've got data in the cell and you have data in that cell and you don't want to expand the cell, but there's still more within the cell than what you can see here because, it's pretty small, you can go ahead and select the cell and view the rest of the contents in the cell in the formula bar. And the formula bar also allows you to insert functions here into the cell, and we'll learn about functions a little bit later on. Then down below, you have your spreadsheet. And by default in Excel 2013, which is new, probably not that big of a deal, but in previous versions of Excel, every time you open up the workbook, it had 3 worksheets. And that makes a lot of sense. When you have a book, you have a lot of sheets of paper. Well, this is still a book, even though it's just one sheet, and that's the default for opening up an Excel workbook. You get one sheet to work with, but you can always click on the plus sign to add additional sheets, and I'll show you how you can customize this so anytime you open up a new workbook, if you want to go back to the earlier versions of Excel where you always had 3 sheets, or even so you can have 5 sheets, 10 sheets every time you create a new workbook. It's up to you. I'll show you how you can do that later on. And within the spreadsheet, you can use it one of 2 ways. Use it as a database, to go ahead and type in maybe the first name, the last name, and then down below type in everybody's first name, type in everybody's last name, and be able to sort it, organize it. Or you can do calculations. Each cell will actually perform a calculation, a function, or a formula, which we'll cover. Then below the worksheet here, you've got some arrows that if you have additional worksheets, you can scroll over, or you can just see them here and click on Worksheet 2, Worksheet 3 if you, like I said, have additional worksheets. You also have the scroll bars here where you can scroll right or left, and of course up and down. And then below that you have what's known as the status bar. Over to the left-hand side it says it's ready. If there's any other issues, it will let you know there. You can also right-click on the status bar and you can customize it. By default, you can see a lot of the things are checked here. And if you don't want to see it in the status bar as you're working with your data, you don't want to see the, let's say, average of a bunch of cells that you have selected that contains numbers down below in the status bar, then uncheck it. Or we'll go ahead and leave it as is. So you can customize the status bar. Let's go ahead and click off of it. Then over to the far right here, you have the normal view, the page layout view, and the page break preview, which by the way, we're talking about views. You can come up here and click on the View tab, and there they are, normal, page break, and page layout. It's just that these are the more popular views, and if you're on the Home tab and you don't want to come up here and click on this tab and then click on the page break preview, that's 2 clicks. Just come down here, and it's just 1 click. Cool. Then you have the zoom in, zoom out features, so if you want to zoom in closer to your cells because you want to get really close and familiar and personable, or you want to zoom out to see more of the spreadsheet, well, there you go, click and drag. To customize the Excel environment, we're going to go backstage to the options screen, but before we do that, one of the customizations that I want to do is to be able to change the Office theme. The Office theme, the default is white, where you get the white ribbon next to the white frame. It doesn't really distinguish between the ribbon and the frame except for the thin line. I want something that's a bit more contrasting than white next to white. So to go ahead and make the change, come up here and click on the File tab, go down to Options. In the Excel Options screen, the General tab is selected by default. Just come down here then to personalize your copy of Microsoft Office, and notice how it says Office, not Excel, because any changes that you make within this section is going to update all the Office programs that you have installed on your computer, not just Excel. Like other Office programs include Word, PowerPoint, Access, Project. So if I come over here and I change the Office theme from white to, ooh, look at all those choices, light gray. Oh, at least in earlier versions of Office, you had blue, black, and silver, and with blue, hey, that was a really nice color. This, okay, let's go with light gray. And then click OK, and you can see, there you go. Got a lighter shade of gray next to the frame, which is a darker shade of gray. And what you do in one Office program will update all the others installed on the computer. In fact, let's go ahead and come down here and right-click on Word to get the jump list. So I can go ahead and select Word 2013. And it opens up the startup screen, and click on Blank Document. And you can see that the Office theme here as well is also light gray. So if I even come in here in Word and click on the File tab and go down to Options, again, General tab, and change it back to white and click Okie dokie, well, Word goes back to white. Close out also all the other Office programs installed on the computer, including Excel. Other options, let's click on the File tab to go backstage to Options. Also notice that within the same section, just above Office theme, you've got the username. You may want to change that to your name. Here's why. Whenever you create a new workbook, whatever name is in the box is going to be the author. So if you want to take credit, go ahead and type in your name so you're the author. Also, any comments that you insert into a cell is going to use the name within the box. And anytime you share the workbook, it will use the name to identify you if you added data or made modifications to data within a cell, and also to other users that are sharing it. Hopefully they updated their username so you can identify who they are if they're adding data to a cell or making changes. Above that, when it comes to creating a new workbook, you can go ahead and customize this. Now, the default font is body font. What the heck is that? Well, it's Calibri. How do I know that? Let me show you. Let me click Cancel. Come up here on the Home tab to the font group, and there it is, Calibri. Well, it said body font. How come it says Calibri? That doesn't make sense. Go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow and see if this makes sense. You see you got a list of all your fonts down below, but up above you have what's called theme fonts, just a little section. There's Calibri, and notice it says body. Well, that's what it says backstage in the Excel options, and that's a theme font. And you also have headings, which if you have any text that you apply a heading to, it'll be in Calibri Light. I want to keep it simple here because we got a training video or training videos on theme fonts to go over this more in depth. But to keep it simple, a theme font is a way that you can go ahead and select a theme that will update all the text within your workbook to a body font and any that have the formatting Calibri Light to the heading font here in a single click. So you don't have to come off over here and say, okay, now I want to change all the font here. I have to select everything and then come up here and change it to here and go to the next worksheet change. No, in a single click, that's what the theme font does, which is really helpful and useful. We'll go over it more in depth, but I want to keep it simple here. Now, if you're not going to use theme fonts where you can update the entire workbook in a single click to having your headings in Calibri Light and the rest of the body that's not in heading format to Calibri, then of course go ahead and go backstage, File, down to Options, and say you're not going to use these body fonts or heading fonts here to use the theme feature, but just go off on your own. Just like let's type in a font, Arial, and you can see it's down below here, and there it is. Let me go ahead and select it. And then the font size, let's do 10. Now for the default view for new sheets, well, choose whatever you want. I want to stay normal. And then include this many sheets. Well, new to Excel 2013, if you can call it that, is that you get one sheet when you create a new workbook. In previous versions of Excel, they gave you 3 sheets, but Microsoft is going green. If you leave it at 1 sheet, that's fine because you can always add additional sheets. If you put it at 5 sheets and you don't use all 5, you can delete them. That's not a big deal. Just in general, when you create a new workbook, how many sheets do you normally work with, just to save you time so you don't have to go ahead and add additional 4 sheets if the one sheet is the default, or if you want 5 sheets. In any case, let's go ahead and leave it here and click Okie dokie. Then it says we got to restart Excel in order for the changes to take effect. Click Okie dokie, close out. Let's go ahead and open up Excel. Takes us to the startup screen where we can choose a blank workbook, and hey, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 worksheets. Fabulous. And then the default font now is Arial. Click on the drop down arrow, and there's Arial. You can still scroll up and see that, hey, you still have theme fonts if you want to use them. And if you do, that's probably best to go backstage and choose body so you can start using these again. In any case, we'll cover all the different ways you can decide when to use a theme font or theme fonts. And also know that the theme font body is not locked into Calibri. There are other theme fonts that give you a different type of font for the heading and a different type of font for the body. In other words, it's trying to make it thematic, something that makes sense. I mean, if you're watching a scary movie, you don't want some happy music playing in the background, I guess, unless it's a comedy. You want something that blends together. So when you have headings, Calibri Light blends with Calibri, so that's in part what a theme is. That, as I mentioned, can be applied to the entire workbook in a single click, which is a huge benefit if you've got a lot of worksheets and you need to update or change your fonts on the fly. Let's keep it simple. Let's go ahead and close out. And any cell that I click in is going to be Arial, even on different worksheets. Any cell that I click in is going to be Arial. Let's go back to sheet 1. The other option that you get if you come up here and you want to save your workbook, click on the Save button. You get some options over here where you can go right to recent folders, or you can click Browse. When you do that, the default folder it browses to is the documents. If you want to have it go to another folder, or even like your desktop by default, well, let's go ahead and click Cancel. In the Backstage, go to Options again, and then come up here and click on the Save tab, and there's the default local file location, the documents. So from the hard drive, when a user logs in, and I log in under Training, it's going to go right to the Documents folder. So you can go ahead and change that and say, well, look, let's just have you go to the desktop by default when I save. And if you have a folder on the desktop that's called Spiffy, then go ahead and identify that through the address from the hard drive. The user training on his desktop is going to be a folder called Spiffy. But you know what? I'll just have it navigate right to the desktop. That's good enough for me. And click Okie dokie. And so when I come up here and click on Save, and I go to the Backstage and I click Browse, hey, it goes right to the desktop, not to the Documents folder. Cool. Let's click Cancel. Let's go to Options here. And let me change sheets from, no pun intended. Let's go back to one sheet. Let's see, the other thing I want to show you that I find important is that, well, new to 2013, when you open up Excel or Word, you get that startup screen. I was used to opening up Excel or Word right with a blank spreadsheet or a blank document in Word. So I get the option down below to not have the start screen show when this application starts. And then before I go ahead and test this and click Okie dokie, let me go back to the Save tab. And when it comes to opening and saving files, I don't want to go backstage. I like it when I open a file, it opens up a little window that I can navigate and not take me backstage where I have to do an extra click. So I'll say don't show the backstage and click Okie dokie. So let's go ahead and close out, test it, open up Excel, double click. Hey, where's the startup screen? It goes right to just one worksheet here. Blank worksheet, fabulous. It's what I'm used to in earlier versions of Excel, so I'm good with that. And then when I come up here and click on the Save button, hey, it doesn't go backstage. It actually opens up a window that I can navigate and not have to waste an extra click when I click Save. And it takes me back here to come click on the computer to find a recent folder or click Browse again. I mean, whew, I'm already worn out. That's too many clicks. The Quick Access Toolbar is in the upper left-hand corner, as you recall. It's called that because you can quickly access any command on it in a single click, as opposed to the commands on the ribbon where you have to bounce around from one tab to the next. So instead of doing that, I can choose my most favorite commands, add them to the Quick Access Toolbar, and I can just access them in a single click. Right now we've got 3 commands by default. When you hover over them, you can see the pop-up. It's the Save, then the Undo, which we cannot undo because we haven't done anything to undo, and then you've got the redo. Now to customize the Quick Access Toolbar, to add commands to it, you can do it one of many ways. One way is to click on its corresponding drop-down arrow, and you can see those commands that are checked here are the ones that are on the Quick Access Toolbar, as we went over: save, undo, and redo. And you've got some, well, in the list here, other popular ones like the Quick Print. Select that, adds the printer with the check mark, meaning that when you click on it, you don't get the window that pops up before it prints saying, okay, how many pages do you want? It just goes one page right to the printer. Or of course, if you have a lot of data and it prints off a lot of pages, you can't choose whether or not you want 2 copies of each page or pages 2 through 5 or 2, 5, and 7. It just goes right to the printer. If you just want to go ahead and get a regular print button, that gives you that option besides going right to the printer. Then we can look at other options. Click on the drop-down arrow, and we've got print preview and print, which let's just go ahead and bypass that and look at more commands. When you click on it, it opens up the window, or let me click cancel. You can also right-click on the Quick Access Toolbar and go to Customize Quick Access Toolbar. Brings up the same window. So you have a list of more popular commands. You can see down below it's sorted alphabetically, and you can go ahead and scroll through. And there's the Quick Print again. We've got Save As, double click, and it adds it over to the right-hand side to be added to the Quick Access Toolbar after we click OK. You can also go ahead and select it and remove it, or come over here, select it again and click Add. Whatever works best for you. Then once you add it to it, you can go ahead and select it and order it by clicking on the Move Up. So now the command is in between Redo and Quick Print, or move it again between Undo and Redo. And if you want more commands than what you see here, click on the drop-down arrow and go to All. And then you can see it's sorted alphabetically, well, starting with the numbers first. And then you can go ahead and scroll down. Let's see the C's. To close, go ahead and double-click to add it. And then as you can see up here on the Quick Access Toolbar, these commands are pretty tight. So the chances of me, and I've done this, where I've come up here really quickly and I accidentally missed this one and clicked on the other one, well, to avoid that, if I want some space in between them, or maybe to group commands together and put spacing in between maybe the undo and redo and the other command on the right and on the left, then go ahead and scroll all the way up to the top to find the separator and double click it. Let's double click it a couple of times. So we've got 4 of them here. So let's go ahead and select one and move it up, and then select another one and move it up. So we've got one between save and undo, another one between save as and close, and then 2 between close and redo. Actually, maybe if we move them both down so we get quite the space between the redo and the quick print, because hey, when you click on quick print, you don't get any warnings. It goes right to the printer. Having done that, let's go ahead and click Okie dokie and take a look at it. And there you go. You've got your 2 separators here, these lines, and then you have your commands, another separator, 2 more commands. You see, you can use them one of 2 ways. You can either go ahead and give yourself some space in between commands, so you're not likely to click on one that's right next to the other one because you got the space, or you can go ahead and use it to group commands. So if I went ahead and did this right, I would probably move the redo up over here and then go ahead and separate it with one separator on one side and then the other, so it's in its own group. In any case, you can do that. Right click on it and go to Customize Quick Access Toolbar and then do your thing. And I'll go ahead and do it really quick. And then click Okie dokie, and well, in any case, there you go. Now if you made a mistake, you didn't want to add one of the commands to the Quick Access Toolbar, you can always remove it by right-clicking on it and going to Customize Quick Access, and again selecting it and click Remove, or better yet, click Cancel. Just right-click and go down to Remove, and right-click, Remove, and anyways, let me go ahead and remove most of these, if not all of them here. I like the Save As, I'll leave that. Another way that you can go ahead and add commands to the Quick Access Toolbar, besides going to, well, the customization here, is that, let me click off, you can add them directly from the ribbon, like an individual command, P for bold, go ahead and right-click on it and add it to the Quick Access Toolbar, and there it is. Or you can add the entire group, so find a blank area within the group and right-click and add it to the Quick Access Toolbar. And what it does is it picks an icon within that group to represent it. So you can see up here, you're thinking, hey, that's the font. If I click on font, it'll give me a color for the font of whatever cell I have selected. No, it just has the font letter A representing this entire group. So when you click on it, it shows you the group. You can also right-click on the expandable dialog box button and add it to the quick access toolbar. Again, it finds another letter within the group to represent, well, the expandable part of the group. So when you click on it, it actually opens up and expands to show more commands for that group. So it's going to find an icon to represent it. Just don't be fooled and go, oh, this is the small one. It must be this one right here that says decrease font size. No, it represents the expandable dialog box button for that group. And like I said, let me just right click and clean this up and remove all these commands, except, like I said, I like the save as. So when I click on it, it executes the command, does a save as where I can go ahead and if I want to make a copy of it, just give it a new name and then find a place to save it, maybe on the desktop or in a folder, and then click save, as opposed to clicking on the File tab and going down to Save As. That's way too many clicks. Let me click back. To customize the ribbon, there are a couple of things I want to show you. You can auto hide the ribbon, meaning that if you want more room on your screen here, you don't want to see the commands, but just the tabs on the ribbon. Well, come over here to the far right and you get this little arrow pointing up. You can see in the pop-up to collapse ribbon, go ahead and click on it, or you can use the shortcut keys Control F1. So when I click on it, there you go. Collapses the ribbon, so I just see the name of the tabs up at the top. So when you're doing your work and you want to access a command on the ribbon or commands, come up here and click on it to temporarily expand it, and go ahead and click on one, click on another. When you're done, click off of it and it collapses. Now if you want to go ahead and restore it so you can see the commands and also the tabs up at the top, you can't come over here because there's no arrow to click on. Well, you can look at that and go, hey, let's click on that, but that's the formula bar arrow. Click on it, see, it only expands the formula, so let's go ahead and click on it and collapse it. So to bring it back up, as you recall, you got the shortcut keys in that little pop-up, Control F1 to expand, and you can also Control F1 to collapse it. Another shortcut is that you can just simply come up here and double-click really fast on any one of these tabs. Well, not the File tab. Let me show you. Double-click on the Home to expand it, double-click on the Home to collapse it. If you do it on the File tab, double-click, it quickly goes from the back stage to the front stage case, so we'll just leave it as is and not double-click on the File tab, but any other of these tabs will work just fine. Double-click and it collapses. Now new to Excel 2013 is the Ribbon Display Options drop-down menu that when you click on it, there you go. Right now it's currently showing tabs, so this is another way that you can go ahead and show tabs or go back to the original Show Tabs and Commands and click on it, Show Tabs, and then finally you have the Auto Hide ribbon, which not only hides the commands but also the name of the tabs on the ribbon. Click on it and it's gone. Now if you want to bring it back temporarily so you can access a few commands, then just come back up to the top, hover over somewhere up at the top until you can see the green bar, click on it. Hey, there you go. Go ahead and click on a few commands. When you're done, click off of it and it collapses again. Now you would think, let me bring it back up, click on it, that if I double click really fast it would automatically expand it again. Well, not when you have it set to the auto hide feature. So you can click on it and go to Show Tabs and do your work, come back up here, double click really fast and that will work. Just not on the auto hide feature, okay? Now there's more to customizing the ribbon than just playing peekaboo with it, like hiding it and unhiding it. We can actually add our own custom groups here to any one of these tabs, and typically I would add them over to the far right, but it doesn't matter, you can add them wherever you want, and create a custom group and add your own commands to it. You can actually create your own custom tab and add commands to that tab. To go ahead and customize the ribbon, right-click anywhere on the ribbon to bring up the shortcut menu, and there you go, Customize the Ribbon. Brings up the Excel Options window with the Customize Ribbon tab selected, or click Cancel and click on the File tab and go the long way to Options. Brings up the same window, Excel Options, and then just select Customize Ribbon. You can see over to the far right, it has all the tabs that are displayed on the ribbon being checked here, except for the Developer. The Developer tab is not displayed by default, but if you want to take a gander at it, go ahead and check it. Click Okie dokie, it adds it to the ribbon. Click on Developer, there you go. Hey, cool. We'll actually work with macros later on, and it's a lot easier to work with the Developer tab, at least for me it is, and the code when it comes to macros than to not have the Developer tab and go to the View tab, to the Macros group, and click on the drop down arrow to actually access the commands here to view, record the macro. When I go to the developer tab, it's all right there. So let's go ahead and right click and go back to customize the ribbon. And let's expand the home tab. You can see when you expand any one of these tabs, you have the name of all the groups, and then when you expand the group, a list of all the commands there that are within that group. Now you can see that the commands here within the group here, they're in a lighter shade of gray, meaning that you can't customize it. You can't, well, when you select it, remove it, or if you come over here to add a command to the group, it won't let you do it. I know it says add, go ahead and try it, but it says you can't do it. It needs to be a custom group if you want to go ahead and add commands to this tab. So if I want to add commands to the tab, let's go ahead and select the tab and then come down here and click on New Group. And there it is right there. And I don't like the name of it. That's a generic name. Let's go ahead and click Rename. And it's going to be Spiffy. What you can do is select one of the icons to represent the group. As you recall in the Quick Access Toolbar training video, when you add a command or a group to the Quick Access Toolbar, it's got an icon that represents that group. Well, what icon is it going to be for your custom group here? Ooh, I like the shield. Oh, everybody's happy. Let's do a happy face and click Okie dokie. So it's a Spiffy custom group. Once it's selected, I can come over here and select any commands under popular, or if I want all the commands and have access to all of them, then come down here and select one and click add and just keep adding all the commands that you want within that group, and that's it. Go ahead and click Okie dokie. And remember, we put it on the home tab, so let's go to the home tab. Hey, it's Spiffy. That's my Spiffy group. I got my commands here that I can access. Cool. Let me go ahead and right click anywhere on the ribbon and go back to customizing it. And by the same token, if you don't want it there, not only can you remove what you just added, there you go, you can actually remove other default groups. When you first opened up Excel, as part of the Excel program initially, you can actually remove everything here. And then click Okie dokie, and oh, that's horrifying. How do I get them back? Because, hey, I need the other groups there, like the fonts group. That's very helpful. So to go ahead and restore it or reset the ribbon, give it a right click anywhere and go back to Customize. And then down at the bottom, click on Reset. And you can reset only the selected ribbon tab or all customizations. Now, if you do all customizations, not only does it do it on the entire ribbon and set everything back to the way it was when you first installed Excel on your computer, but it also resets the Quick Access Toolbar. And I added one customization to it, or the command Save As. So if I go ahead and do all customizations, it says delete all ribbon and Quick Access Toolbar customizations. Yes, there goes the Save As. Click Okie dokie. At least my home tab is back to its default. And then the developer tab has disappeared because, hey, that's part of the default when you installed Excel on your computer to not display it. So if you want to display it, then again, right click anywhere, customize the ribbon. Well, how about creating our own custom tab? Let's go ahead and click on New Tab. And it's got a new tab. Well, every tab's got to have at least one group, so it comes with a new group. But I don't like the name of the new tab. Let me select it and click Rename and call it My Favs for my favorites. Click Okie dokie. And then for the new group, let's rename it. Again, I'm very spiffy about what I work on, and so we'll select Spiffy. Again, let's do the happy face and click Okie dokie. And let's do another group within the My Faves tab. New group. We'll rename it Spiffy 2, or the Spiffy Strikes Back. And let's do a shield on that one. Again, these icons or symbols represent that group. When you add that group to the Quick Access Toolbar, which I'll show you in just a second, go ahead and click Okie dokie. And then select a group, start adding, Spiffy 2, add, and add. In any case, you get the idea. Let's go ahead and click Okie dokie, and hey, there it is, My Favs. Now, do I want My Favorites right there? Because you can right click and customize the ribbon and go ahead and select My Favorites and arrow down. So it comes, well, right after the View tab and click Okie dokie. So it's down at the other end here, which is fine. So we've got all my commands in the Spiffy Group 2. And then as you recall, in the Quick Access Toolbar training video, when you want to add all the commands of the group onto the Quick Access Toolbar so the group is accessible from there, then you right-click in a blank area on the Quick Access Toolbar, and you say Add It, And the icon that we selected when we created our group is now there, and it represents that group. Right-click that one and add it. Got the shield happy face, and cool. So let me go ahead and right-click and go back to Customize the Ribbon and show you that if you actually add a new group, and let me go ahead and add a command to it, and you don't rename the group, or you rename it, my fave, and you don't select a symbol, and you click OK, then Excel will choose just a generic icon that represents that group when you right-click in a blank area to add it there, and it's going to be a green orb. And of course, we can go ahead and clean this up and right-click to remove these from the Quick Access Toolbar, and right-click to customize the ribbon. Well, let me go down to Quick Access Toolbar because when we reset it, I lost my Save As. Double-click. It's my favorite command here on the Quick Access Toolbar. And then let's go back to Customize the Ribbon. Now, if you're done with these and you don't want to use them anymore, you got two options. You can either go ahead and select it and remove it, which is basically deleting it. Or if you're like, I may want to use this later, then just uncheck it and click Okie dokie and it disappears. Then you can right-click later on and go back to Customize the Ribbon and then check it to see it again. So we can select that, or you can expand it and select a group and remove just the group to customize it. But once you remove it, it's gone. And we can select the tab here, remove that as well, it's gone. And click Okie dokie, and we're back to where we started. Now, the obvious way to navigate around Excel is by using the mouse. Just go ahead and click on any cell to select it, and then to find out where you're at, you can look at the column that you're in, that's shaded up at the top, column F, and then the row all the way to the left-hand side is 12. So the name of the cell you've got is F12, and for reference, you can look at the name box F12. You can also use the arrow keys on the keyboard to go up, down, left, or right, or the tab key, tab goes to the right, or hold down the shift key and then hit the tab and it goes to the left. You can also, of course, use the scroll bars down below. When you click on the arrow, it scrolls right column by column, or down row by row, and also up row by row. Or if you have a large data range here that you want to quickly advance to, you can also just simply click on the scroll bar itself and slide it, and you can really move fast than just doing it row by row or column by column by clicking on the arrows here. Now, to get back to the beginning, or in this case, let's say column A, hit the home key on the keyboard and it'll always take you back to column A. If you want to get back to cell A1, which is the start of any worksheet, then the shortcut keys are Control Home. Now, by the same token, if you want to get to the end, well, this changes just a bit. If you hit the End key on the keyboard, it doesn't automatically take you to the end of the columns, but in combination, when you hit the End key and any arrow key, it'll advance to the end of the data range, but if there's no data, it goes all the way to the end. So in other words, if I hit End and I want to go to the right and there's some data there, it'll go to the end of that range. Or if I hit End and arrow to the right and there's no data, it goes all the way to the end of the worksheet, well, to the last column there. And also it's the same when you go down. So if I hit the End key and hit the down arrow, because there's no data range below it, it goes all the way to the end of the worksheet, the last row, which is over 1 million. That's fun. You got your work cut out for you if you want to fill in all those cells. So to go ahead and go back to the beginning, hold down the Control key and hit Home, and we're back to cell A1. And then if you want to advance screen by screen, like we've got a total of 28, 29 rows, and I hit the page down, it goes to the next screen, starts at 29 down to 56, page down, and then to go back, of course, page up. And if you want to advance to the right or to the left on the screen, then hold down the Alt key and go page down to go right, and then Alt page up to go left. Now, as far as navigating from worksheet to worksheet, well, I know by default Excel only gives you one, but hey, let's go ahead and click on the plus sign a couple of times and add a few more worksheets. And go back to sheet 1. You can also use the shortcut keys Control, page down, and you'll see down at the bottom as I Control page down, that's how you can advance without using the mouse, those shortcut keys from one worksheet to the next. So Control page down, and then Control page up, and we're back to sheet 1. Now, besides navigating around, when it comes to selecting a range of cells, because maybe you want to apply some formatting to it, make them bold, italics, underline, or whatever you want to do to it, to select a range of cells, not just one, but maybe two, just click and drag. Now, when it comes to clicking and dragging, you get 3 options. In other words, you get the white cross. Do you see the white cross? Whenever you see the white cross, that means it's in selection mode. Just click and drag. But if you hover over a range that's already selected and you get a four-way arrow, that means that it's not in selection mode. That means that you can actually take the range that you have and click and drag it and actually move the data within that range over. Or the other one is in the lower right-hand corner, the black cross. That's called the autofill handle, and we'll discuss that later on. So you got three options there. You have the black cross, the four-way arrow, and then the white cross. To keep it simple, let's just focus on the white cross when it comes to selecting a range of data. Click and drag, click and drag. You can also select a non-consecutive range of cells by holding down the Control key and then clicking here, clicking there, clicking there, clicking there. And then you can also click and drag with the Control key held down and do a range, but still holding on to the other cells, because if I click off, it now deselects the range of cells that I had selected. You can also do a block range of selection by holding down the Shift key. So if I come down here from cell I8 to, I don't know, L14, when I click, of course it's not going to select the range, but if I hold down the Shift key and click, it does a block selection. And then of course holding down the Shift key and clicking over here, here does the block. But if I change to the Control key and then go ahead and click and drag, it keeps the block that I have there and allows me to go ahead and select other cells or click and drag cell ranges, again with the Control key held down. If I want to go ahead and select the entire worksheet, you can do Control A and it selects everything, including the selection of the selection. Let me go ahead and click off. Or in the upper left hand corner, you have the Select All cell between the column headers A, B, C, D and the row headers. That's the Select All cell. Click on it. It's just like doing the shortcut key Control A. And then to quickly advance to a cell, if it's way out there in Boonie land, like let's say I don't want to move my mouse all the way over to column K, row 20, because boy, that's a long stretch for me. Just come up here and click in the name box and type in K20 and then hit enter. Takes you right to it. Cool. Now you're probably worried about, as I am, these extra worksheets. Right click on them and delete them. Now when it comes to creating a basic worksheet and entering in your data to create like a mini database, you can start anywhere. You can go to column AA, row 325,000 if you want, but I want to keep it simple and start in the upper left hand corner. Well, to show you that you can start anywhere, let's go ahead and start in row 2, column A. Ooh, big jump. In any case, I'm going to type in the labels for all the columns of data that I want to keep track of, and the first label is going to be months. Type it in and then hit the tab key to advance to the next column to type in my label to keep track of sales, tab, and then expenses, and then finally profits. Now as I typed them all in, I hit the tab key to advance to the next column. When I'm done, when I hit enter, Excel automatically takes me back to the first column. So I can enter in, well, the data below, my labels here, starting off with months. Now Excel is only able to do that because it saw a pattern. So when I use the tab key to advance from one cell to the next, when I get to the end and I hit enter, it takes me back. But if I break the pattern, like for example, if I click down here and I type in 1 and then go over here 2, 3, and 4, and I don't use the tab key and I break off in the middle and use the mouse, and then I come back and start typing in the remainder of the numbers and then hit enter, it's not going to go all the way back to where I started because I broke the pattern. So if I type in 1, tab, 2, tab, and then I click down here and then I go, oh, I better finish it off, and then type in 3, tab 4. When I hit enter, where's it going to go? Well, because I broke the pattern, when I hit enter, it's going to go back where I last left off, and that was starting off here in column G. So to go ahead and delete the numbers, you can click on a cell and hit the delete key, or better yet, as you recall, you can select a range of cells by, with the white cross, clicking and dragging to select it. Make sure it's the white cross, because after you select something, if you're like, whoops, I didn't mean to select that, I just want to select part of that, or maybe just the other part. After you select it, if you go over the border of the selection, you don't get the white cross. So don't think that, hey, I can just go ahead and reselect it by moving over the border and using the four-way cross, because when you do that, click and drag, it actually moves the data, which, hey, we learned something that's a little bit advanced that we'll go over in a later training video, but there you go. Let me go ahead and hit undo. just make sure you get the white cross. So there's the white cross, click and drag to select the range, hit the delete key on the keyboard, and it's gone. Now let's go ahead and start typing in our months below the months label, and then sales, expenses, and profits. So for the months, I'm going to type in January. And then to stay in the same column, I'll hit enter to go below January because next is February. Now when I type in March, because it begins with the letter M, what other field within this column also begins with the letter M? Months. When I type in the letter M, automatically, to be helpful, fills in whatever else it sees in there that begins with the letter M just right above it, and it says, hey, after you type in the letter M, I'll fill in the rest for you automatically as a shortcut if you hit the tab key or hit enter. So if I hit enter, hey, I don't have to type anymore, just the letter M. Pretty cool. But if I don't want to have months repeated, then type in the letter M, and when you see it come up, just ignore it, and then type in Arch for March, hit enter, and there you go. And I'm going to hit enter again, and I'm going to add my totals, the label for it, over to the left-hand side. So see if this makes sense. Let me hit enter. I've got my column labels here, right? For my months, sales, expenses, and profits. And then I'll enter in the data here for sales and expenses. And then I want to get my total for sales and add it down below, and my expenses and put it right there. So I've got a label over here, a row label, for that range of, well, numbers that I'll be entering in for the sales. So you can have row labels and column labels. So let me go ahead and type in my sales numbers here and then hit enter. And when I hit enter, it just goes to the next cell down below. Let's do expenses. And that's it. Congratulations, you created just a basic, simple worksheet. You're probably thinking, hey, what about calculating the profits and getting my totals? Well, that's coming up soon, where we go ahead and learn how to add formulas to do the calculations for our columns here as well as our rows. So we can get the totals for our sales and expenses for quarter one, and then also the profits, which would be sales less expenses for the profits. Now, before we go any further, I recommend that we save our workbook. And you can see up here on the title bar the generic name, that is until we save it and give it a new name. And to save it, let's come over here and click on the Save button on the Quick Access Toolbar. And if this is the first time you're saving your workbook, it performs a Save As, where it's going to ask two questions. Where do you want to save it? And you can come over here in the navigation pane, and let's go to the desktop, and then over in the main window on the desktop, find the folder, double click on it, and we can save it here. It's going to be in my exercises folder. And then the second question is, what name do you want to give it? You can keep it as the generic name book 1, or let's do my spiffy worksheet, workbook, database, whatever you want to call it. And then the other option, if you want, you can actually change it and convert it from an Excel workbook, well, to PDF if you have it there, as well as an earlier version of Excel, which I don't recommend if you can avoid it, because the earlier version is a lot larger. In other words, it doesn't use a zip compression like the later versions of Excel do, Excel 2007, 2010, and 2013. And also, the later versions have an improved recovery. So if something happens to the file, you got a better chance of opening it up if the file's damaged in the later versions of Excel than, well, 97 through 2003, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click off of it and just leave it as Excel Workbook, which is the latest version, and then just go ahead and click Save. And you can see up here in the title bar, it updates it from the generic name to My Spiffy Worksheet. Cool. So any changes that I make here, like if I update this and say, whoops, it's supposed to be 700, hit enter, and then I come up here to save it, it's not going to perform a save as because it already knows the name of the workbook, My Spiffy, and where it's going to be saved. And it goes right to it, which is in the exercises folder on the desktop. Which brings up a good point. What if I want to go ahead and create a copy of this? You can come up here, and of course, instead of clicking Save, which just saves it back to the original file, you want to do a Save As or bring that Save As window back up. You can click on the File tab and go backstage to Save As, or let me click back. I added that command to my Quick Access Toolbar, click on Save As, and it brings open the window where I can go ahead to make a copy of it. Just, well, it's My Spiffy Worksheet, and then type in, this is a copy, click Save. And now it updates, and I'm in the copy, so if I don't want to be in the copy, but I just wanted a copy of it, then I want to close out of here and go back to my original My Spiffy Worksheet. So if I close out of here and I open up the exercises folder on my desktop, double click, there's the original and there's the worksheet copy. And so I can go ahead and double click to open that up, or let me go ahead and close out. If you have the program pinned down to the taskbar like I do, as we learned in an earlier training video, just right click on it to get the jump list, and there's my spiffy worksheet. And you can see when I hover over it, you got the address in the pop-up, so it's on the C drive there. In any case, there it is again. On the desktop in the exercises folder, click on it. Cool. And by the way, if you want to close out of the worksheet but not out of the program here, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either come up here and click on the File tab and go down to Close, and there you go. The program's still open, but the workbook has been closed. Or let me go ahead and open it back up. You can right-click down below and come back up here to my spiffy worksheet, or click on the File tab. Let me click on it, and the default's open. Over here, it's got the recent workbooks that I've been working on, and there it is, my spiffy worksheet. Click on that to open it back up, and that's good. So I can show you the shortcut key is Control W. That also closes the workbook without closing the entire program. Now keep in mind, when I talk about the worksheet or the workbook, well, a workbook has sheets in it. Every Excel file is a workbook, and within that Excel file, you got at least one worksheet, or even more. It just depends on how many worksheets you want to add to it, which we'll go over in a later training video. Let me go ahead and open up that workbook again real quick. Click on the File tab, and when you hover over the recent workbooks, you see that little push pin right there? Instead of having this kind of cycle through if you haven't opened it up recently and it's not in the top, 5 here, instead of coming over here to the computer and then browsing out to find it, let me go ahead and click back and then File and try it again. You can actually click on the push pin to say that that will always stay there. And it doesn't have to be a recent workbook. You can actually open up 20 other workbooks, and this will always stay there. These down below will just be the most recent ones, but this one you'll always have available, so you don't have to go out and find it or have it as one of the recent ones to be listed here. Then, of course, you can go ahead and unpin it, and when you do that, the line that's separating, besides those that are going to be permanently there and those that are most recent, disappears, and it becomes, if it's one of the most recent ones, part of the other recent workbooks. So let me click on it to open it up, and cool. If somebody sends you an Excel file that was created in an earlier version of Excel and you want to convert it to the latest 2013 for good reasons, like if it's an earlier version, Excel 2000 or 2002, you don't get the stable file format as you do in the most recent version. Also, it's going to be a larger file size because 2013 uses zip compression. And if it's a more recent version like 2010, you may not be able to use all the new features in 2013 if you leave it in 2010. So to go ahead and convert it, I got an example here in my exercises folder. Let me double click to open it up. You can see these two files here. As you recall in the previous training video, we created in the latest version of Excel 2013 as opposed to this one right here. And you can see right off the bat that you got a different icon from the latest version here. So, which one of these is not like the other? Well, it's not like the latest versions. And you can see when I hover over it, it says in the pop-up, it was created in an earlier version of the range 97 through 2003. It could be 97, could be 2000, 2002, or 2003. It doesn't say, it just says that's the range. And also, if you have your extensions turned on where you can view them, and what I mean by extensions is that you've got the name of the file, and then you have a dot, and you have 3 or 4 letters after, which allows the operating system to know what program to open this file up in. And if you want to learn more about extensions, then you can watch my Windows 7 training video on extensions, but let's go ahead and keep it simple here. There's the extension XLS, and the one from the latest version, XLSX. And as we talked about in the previous training video, that extra X on the end is indicating that this was created in the extensible markup language file format, a more stable format, so a more stable file. Now, if you open up an Excel file that was created in an earlier version of Excel, let me double click to open it up, you'll be able to see up here on the title bar the compatibility mode, so the latest version can read it. And for the most part it can, because we're not using any fancy formatting here in this workbook. And you can see down below we've got additional worksheets. We have worksheet 2, which is for Utah, and we have a data sheet for New York for all the sales here in the different quarters. In any case, I digress. Let's go back to worksheet 1. and let's convert this thing. So to convert it to the latest version, it's really simple. Just come over here and click on the File tab, and by default it goes to Info. Just come over here and there you go, Convert. So it says some new features are disabled to prevent problems when working with previous versions. So make sure you upgrade it to the latest version. That is, if you don't have to send it back and have them work on it and collaborate with you. If it's just FYI for you, I just do it. Go ahead and click on it, and there you go. This action converts the workbook to the current file format. That's good. Go ahead and click Okie dokie. When you click OK, the original workbook's going to be deleted and can't be restored after the conversion. So, okie dokie. The workbook, in order for the conversion to take place, it's going to close out of it, then reopen it really quickly, and we'll say yes, we're okay with that. And you can see the compatibility mode is no longer there, and the extra X for the extension is now there, so it's in XML format. Sweet. And for more proof, let me go ahead and close out of here. You can see now in my exercises folder that, hey, all the same icons, and when I hover over it, it doesn't say it's an earlier version. And also the extension there has the extra X like these others that we created earlier in Excel 2013, letting us know that it's the extensible markup language, the more stable file format for the Excel file. What you're looking at here is a database that I fancied up just a bit, where I added data bars, where I can look at the range of cells within the column here of expenses, for example, and see graphically how we're doing, rather than numerically. See if this makes sense. 55 is a lot less than 110, so the data bars are going to show that, where this one's larger than that one. In any case, that's not the point. The point of this is that if you do something in Excel 2013, like adding data bars, and you want to find out when you send it off to somebody else who has an earlier version of Excel to see if it's compatible in that earlier version, what you can do is you can go ahead and use the Compatibility Checker feature, which is found up here. Going backstage, click on the File tab, Info selected by default, just come down here and click on Check for Issues, and there it is. Check for features not supported by earlier versions of Excel. Click on that, and there's the window. The following features in this workbook are not supported. And what are they? You can go ahead and read it. We've got 1, 2, 3. Let me scroll back up. The first one says that things that aren't compatible in an earlier version. And what version? Well, for this one, it's 97 through 2003, are data bars, color scales, or icon sets. Well, that's what a data bar is. It's got a color scale, a gradient from red to white, and then it's an icon, so it doesn't like it at all in an earlier version. And you can see the location that it found was on sheet 1. I've got 3 sheets, so sheet 1, it's got the issue. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the next one. Not only is this one not compatible and is going to have significant loss, as you see up here, significant loss of functionality in 97 through 2003, but also 2007. And it's looking at the negative value. It doesn't like that, and it's found on sheet 1, conditional formatting, which is the feature, the data bar here. So in other words, if I go ahead and remove the data bars, the earlier versions of Excel will be able to view the worksheet here. And you can scroll down for minor loss of fidelity. And again, it's location, sheet 1, conditional formatting is the border or bar direction setting. In other words, everything is tied to the data bars. It may show the data bars in Excel 2007, but you may not get the gradient. You may just get red all the way across. So if you want to go ahead and find out if this is compatible with 2010, it doesn't list 2010 here, so you're good to go. Or to help you out a bit more, click on the drop-down arrow and uncheck the earlier version of 97 through 2003 and also 2007. And the last one is 2010. You can click on the drop-down arrow. That's checked. I don't see anything there, so you're good to go. You can just go ahead and send it as is, and the person with the Excel 2010 program will be able to open this up, this file that was created in the latest version of 2013 with no problems. In any case, let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. And if we want to go ahead and clean this up so the earlier versions can view it, then go ahead and select the range and come up here on the Home tab to the Styles group and Conditional Formatting down to Clear Rules. To clear the rules from the selected cells, the data bars are gone. So when I come up here and click on the File tab, from Info to Check Issues to check for compatibility issues, there's none. So any version of Excel can view the worksheet here. Very simplistic. Let me go ahead and hit Undo, because you'll also get this when you do a Save As if you decide to save this in an earlier version. So let's go ahead and click on Save As. which is on my Quick Access Toolbar, and change it from the Excel Workbook to the earlier version of 97 through 2003, and then go ahead and click Save. And by default, the Compatibility Checker is going to pop up and let you know what's going on. If you're okay with that, then just go ahead and click Continue, and it saves it to that earlier version. You can see up here on the title bar, it's got the extension .xls, not the extra X, which is the latest version for extensible markup language, as we discussed in earlier training videos. So that has converted over. Let me click off. There's no change here, right? Looks all good. Well, let me go ahead and close out. Go to my exercises folder on my desktop, open it up, and there's the earlier version that we converted it to. Again, the extension here has an extra X, so that's the latest version. This one doesn't have it. And you can see when I hover over it, it shows me the earlier version, the pop-up, and also the icon's different, as we discussed in an earlier training video. Go ahead and double-click to open it up, click off of it, and you can see that even opening this up in the latest version of Excel, it still accepts most of it, except we don't get the actual bar over here, just the gradient. So it doesn't extend itself out and look as clean and as nice as I'm viewing it in non-compatibility mode format. So you just get an idea basically what it's going to look like or how it's going to come across to those who have an earlier version of Excel. When they open it up, they may not even get the bars here. But you see how that doesn't look as good as when I close out and go to the click off, and you can actually see how it's got the border around it and just not the gradient from red to white. Looks a lot cleaner. So just keep that in mind in case if they freak out and go, what the heck did you send me? And they can't see this, or it looks really funny and it's bleeding all over the place. You'll have an idea what they're talking about if you watch this training video. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.